Still no problems here, folks. Nothing to worry about. Please disperse. Please disperse. After some of the most impressive knife skills I've ever seen, like seriously, you try and chop onions in a clunky looking costume like that, we learned that we were getting an episode where Gemba supposedly was gonna make his first delivery. I say supposedly, not just because of a certain twist later in this episode, but I'd argue he's already delivered several items in this show. Yeah, they weren't always requested, but still, he was handing important things over to people who needed them, but whatever, semantics. Hey, if they're not gonna do the joke, I'll happily do it for them. This episode was also celebrating Children's Day, May 5th, which was also when this episode aired in Japan. And for those unfamiliar, it's a holiday that's celebrated both in Japan and here in Hawaii, as we do have multiple generations that immigrated to these islands. It's a day where families raise koi-shaped streamers and eat some sweet mochi wrapped in leaves. Thus, Mira's confectioner part-time job was taking advantage of the holiday and selling their wares. As a result, she also caught up with Gemba in the middle of his delivery for the ISA, which he claimed was some kind of powerful and unstable device. Oh, how I wonder what the big twist of this episode could be. Could it possibly be shenanigans? The Hashiran caught wind of this and wanted to avenge their boss Mad Rex after he horribly mistreated them and really just screwed himself over with how relentless he was. But yeah, they decided to steal the plutonium meant to get Mari back to 1985 to cause some real chaos. And of course, in keeping with the aforementioned holiday, they decided to make a monster out of the koi streamers with a completely unnecessary jumping toss. Oh, and they also did get some mochi, which they did pay for, though I'm not exactly sure what the exchange rate on bolts are these days. Still probably better than the yen to the US dollar. Kind of rightfully fearing something could go wrong, Mira decided to follow Gemba, though maybe she was just being a little too concerned. Yeah, come on, that was just a pretty sharp little piece of scrap metal that was precariously put atop that warehouse for no particular reason. It's no big deal, really. Seriously, I thought it was going to turn out to be some sort of trap set by the Hashiran, but no, they never really explained why that scrap metal was just there, other than, I guess someone wanted to recreate that one scene from Hot Fuzz. Anyway, actual trouble came their way when the Hashiran found them and managed to prevent Mira from transforming, and Gemba literally had his hands full. This did, however, result in one of the best unmorph fights in the series so far, as we combine both some good action and comedy, with Gemba playing keep away with the suitcase. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the action choreographers were inspired by some of Jackie Chan's films with how much they managed to integrate a prop into the fight. And in the end, the monster had to be recalled when he almost hit the case that would have blown them to Kingdom Come, supposedly. Later, Mira was wondering where the hell the rest of their team was. Hey, I think we found a real-life JoJo character. I mean, in the kind of bro sense and not like Jotaro before character development and all that. Speaking of which, Gemba and Mira were doing some significant bonding through their little adventure, which was nice to see, as the latter has been going through some significant character development throughout this series as the audience surrogate and all that. And the former also got some nice development when he further elaborated on his motivations as a procurer. As we already kind of know, he enjoys seeing others better themselves through their hard work and experiences, but part of that might have been because he was unsure of his own self-worth. He was seemingly unsure how much he could help others. I mean, obviously, he was willing to do it to the best of his abilities, and has more than proven himself, and yet, even now, he seemed to be unsure if he was any better or worse than other members of his team. Perhaps his confident and somewhat smug attitude was just him masking a bunch of insecurities. Orange is the color that represents enthusiasm, but really, how long can that last for anyone? Arigato, Mira. Anyone else just want to give these characters the biggest hugs possible? Eventually, the Hashirang caught up with them, but the two were ready for them this time. And yeah, for someone who is unsure of his abilities, he seemed to have more than enough tricks up his sleeve, as we got a pretty awesome fight with him borrowing Mira's weapon to do some good old dual wielding. I also love how he got his own little countdown as he defeated enemies as though he were like a budget Decamaster or something. Speaking of which, time was up on his job, so he decided to have some fun while ending his shift.
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom!
Yeah, not too surprisingly, especially after how much he carelessly swung that case around, there was no explosive device, but rather just a ton of mochi in it. The actual device had already been delivered by a third party, and the Boonboomger were just acting as a decoy. So yeah, for Genba, this is only ever a pseudo-delivery that he never told Mira about because he wanted to keep the act up by scaring her half to death throughout it.
What an asshole!
I mean, yeah, he said he was trusting her to react the way he expected, but still, come on, totally move there, dude. Anyway, the rest of the guys finally joined the fight, while the original Hashirang trio retreated, while hilariously taking some more mochi. They fought off the koi monster, with of course Genba and Mira getting in the final hit because they totally trusted each other after one lied to them throughout the episode. And the resulting chase before the big monster fight was also appropriately themed after the holiday. Again, technically I think that was more your teammates doing, but whatever makes you feel better. And they defeated the monster in a fun fight where they established that they could also mix and match card parts for more effective combos like some more dual wielding and giving the builder form a claw to hold the enemy in place to be turned into light. With that, the episode ended with the Boonboomger eating a lot of leftover mochi, which I think was also shared with the staff of the show, which yeah, kind of makes me want to work here. This was a pretty fun, and at times, pretty touching little episode about the citrus member of this team. While Genba is still a bit of an enigma for this team in terms of his true emotions, he does also make it clear that he's a lot of fun to be around. As a result, his misadventures with Mira were both hilarious, and yet pretty wholesome at times too. It's also just nice to have a little bit of a breather between these general arcs, as I think we're gonna get a new guy next time. Of the character so far, I do think it was more than necessary to give Genba a little more development. After all, as we said in his actual Sentai debut episode, he did end up feeling a little shortchanged with all of the stuff going on between Mad Rex and Taya. Maybe they even picked up on this and thus decided to do this episode to make up for that. Whatever the case, it was nice to see hints at the Procureur's more vulnerable side. Just because he seems like he knows what everyone else needs, it doesn't mean he knows what he himself wants or needs. He seems confident, but this episode suggested that that might be a facade that does make me interested in seeing how he'd hold up in a more stressful situation. For now though, he's also pragmatic as all hell, and did come up with a good plan to distract the Hashirang, whilst also screwing around with his own teammate. Not complaining, mind you, as this also did lead to some good comedy with Mira and the Hashirang stressing out over an explosive suitcase, as well as some fun fights centered around keeping it safe. And overall, this is just a fun little in-betweener before we enter into the appearance of the next Hashirang General and arc. Genba is slowly winning me over, even if he is a bit of a troll, but hey, at least he makes Jackie proud. Work on the Max Heart movie review is going a lot faster than I expected, mostly because I didn't have that much to talk about it. Yeah, slight spoilers, but I wasn't too impressed with this one. I mean, there's still stuff to talk about as the first movie of this franchise, but at the same time, I'm ready to look at the more controversial ones sooner rather than later. Still, do look forward to it. Until then though, farewell for now my friends, and do have a happy Children's Day if you celebrate it. Just don't celebrate it too much.